Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main fan page where I do this daily live stream. And the information is all around the divination card or the oracle card that I draw in the morning. And that card actually kind of sparks a spiritual conversation. Yeah, or conversation about spirits. So welcome. Today is Saturday, March 2nd. March 2nd. It is actually getting very cold here. The temperature isn't all that bad, but we're bracing for the next polar vortex that's supposed to be coming through tonight. So, I was going to move the studio back to the Star Nations Academy and start broadcasting from up there again. And I think we're going to be here for another couple of days, guys. I mean, it's nice. It's my meditation room. I enjoy being in here. It's just that, I'd like to do my meditations without all the setup of the of the studio in here as well. So anyway, today's Saturday. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. Some people are still shoveling out from the last snowstorm I see. Yeah. So one of the things I'd like to do before we actually get started, and that is to share and to like the live stream. I'm going to do that right now on my phone. I'm actually kind of tethered today because I'm charging my battery. So I'm going to find our live stream. Here we are. I'm going to like it, and then I'm going to share it over to my news feed to let my friends know that I'm live streaming. And oops. Wrong. I was starting to share the title of the wrong show. And then to please join. There we go. There. It's pretty easy to do that. I do it so often that I have quick keys. And as soon as I update my phone, though, those quick keys go away and I have to start over. I was going to share something with you guys this afternoon. And I hear downstairs, Paul just got back. I'm going to get up and close the door because George is going to get all rambunctious in just a moment because Paul's home. Okay, so hang on. There. George had his first full-fledged bath yesterday late afternoon. I took him into the groomers and for them to give him his first full bath. He's had baths before at puppy daycare because he's gotten full of mud and that kind of thing, but it's not actually a bath. They just kind of spray them down to get most of the mud off of them. And so he's used to the groomer there. And yesterday he had his full first bath where, the shampoo, the hair dryer blower, the clipping, the whole thing. And I guess he did really, really well. For a puppy his age, she said that he was really tolerant of the new things, right? Yeah. So he looks, what did Paul say? He said, I think they put him on double fluff or something because his fur is all fluffy again. So that George, he keeps me laughing. Well, Rochelle says, hello, Neshi, grounded today and shared. Yay. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for grounding. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Good. And it looks like Stephanie's been busy doing all kinds of posts for us. And Rochelle's sharing that it's sunny where she is living over in Michigan, across Lake Michigan from me. Yeah, you guys are lucky ducks. You get the sun. We haven't seen the sun in several days here. And Lynn Marie's here too. Hello, Lynn Marie. Good to have you here. Good to see you in the chat. And Andrea's here too. Hello, Andrea. Good afternoon to you too. Yeah. You know, I have to say that when Paul was telling me about this next polar vortex that's supposed to be coming through, I looked at him and I said, this has been a very challenging winter. I said, and it's only been in the last probably month and a half, maybe. I don't think it's been 2 months. But we've had the polar vortex twice, I think, and we've had all these snowstorms, and and now and they've been separate. They haven't been together, right? We'd have the polar vortex, and then we'd have the snow, but not at the same time. And this time around, it looks like we're going to get both the really frigid cold air, and we're supposed to get some snow later today. So yeah, I said, just when you think spring is going to be heading down our way, I said, I don't know. Feels like we're going to be in the deep freeze. And he was reminding me that in December we had 45-degree weather. Yeah, 45. Exactly December 17th, I think it was. Maybe it was that weekend anyway. We had 45-degree weather. He reminded me of that. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. And so there's not too much to complain about, I suppose, but still, when it's 30 below with a wind chill, I wonder, why am I still in living in the upper Midwest, when we have the entire world to choose from where to live. We're still here. Yeah. Except when, it's also very pretty here too. I live about an hour east of the Mississippi. So I'm on the northwest side of the state. And we have a lot of eagles through here. We have a lot of wildlife, actually. And so I remind myself of those things when I start getting a little cabin stir crazy with the weather. So today's card is very, very interesting, and I want to get to that. And for those who might be just joining us and wondering, what the heck is this live stream about? This live stream is about the card draws, actually, that I started back in May. I had been doing card draws for a really long time, but I just started sharing them for the live stream, right? And so I think we're on our deck 4 or 5 since May. And our current deck that we're using is the Druid Animal Oracle by Stephanie and Philip Cargome. The cards are illustrated by Bill Worthington. And the information comes from a UK perspective, okay? Which is kind of interesting, really. I'm learning a lot from Philip and the cards. We're learning some words in Gaelic, the animal words in Gaelic, and I'm doing my best with the pronunciation, guys. They're probably not very good, but I'm doing my best. And I find that I'm learning more about the Druid perspective, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, because most of the people in the chat this afternoon have been with me for since we started the live streams, actually, for this particular show, and so I think that because it's coming from a perspective I'm not entirely familiar with, it brings a wider understanding of some things, and some things it's like, oh, I didn't know that. So it's always good when that happens, right? When you learn something new. Today we actually have 2 cards came. We got 2 cards, Hare and Bear. Hare, Bear. And for us here in the States, we wouldn't necessarily use the word hare. We have different kind of species of rabbits, but this I remember in one of our old decks, I think it was Angels and Ancestors, I think, there was a card with rabbit or hare on it, and Mervyn Kelly was giving us the insight of how the Druid perspective would look at hare, and he actually gifted me this card set. So the oracle cards, and so today this guy showed up. Isn't he cute? Hare. Hare. And to pronounce it in Gaelic, I'm not quite sure. The phonetics is Gyarr. So I got the R at the end, right? But is it Gearr or Gyr? Gyar? We're going to call him Gearr. We'll see. Maybe Mervyn is going to pop in, and then we can always ask him what the correct pronunciation is. But here, the Gaelic is Gearr. And you know, when I first looked at the card, I said, "Oh, isn't he a cute rabbit?" And I realized, oh yeah, hare, and that they are a little bit larger than some of our U.S. rabbits. We have several different species here of rabbit. But this card, I mean, in the background, you know, we have a crescent moon. We have a rising sun or a setting sun. It's probably a rising sun. And behind the rabbit, behind the hare is a dolmen. Dolmen. D-O-L-men. D-O-L-M-E-N. Yeah, it has to do with burials. Yeah, and you know, and if we look really close, we see the eggs there, right? Yeah. And so, you know, when I saw the eggs, of course, you know, where did my mind go? My mind went to how we celebrate here. We celebrate Easter here with the rabbit and the eggs, right? And that's supposed to be more of a secular way of celebrating Easter. And so that's where my mind went when I saw the eggs. Or the Cadbury rabbit, right? The one that brings the chocolate eggs. Yeah. Hare. You know, and I was, the other thing that crossed my mind when I first saw the card was in Ireland, and the old Irish, they have a tale, a fairy tale about the puka. And the puka is a very tall, large rabbit. And that he tends to take things and that sort of thing. And some of you might remember there's an old movie with Jimmy Stewart. And he had an imaginary friend, right? And his imaginary friend was Harvey. And Harvey was a very large rabbit, a puka. One of my favorite old movies. Yeah. Let's see. Rochelle's your wedding ring is not on your finger. I never wear my wedding ring. I have one, and it's usually on this hand. I actually have a gold one from when we were first married, and then Paul got me a silver one with inlaid turquoise. I think that was like on our 15th or 20th anniversary or something like that, and that's the one I wear more often when I do wear my ring. And I never wear my rings when I'm home. None of them. The only time I actually wear my rings now is when I have a live stream, and not every live stream either. So yeah, isn't that funny? Huh? You must be thinking of Michelle. You must be thinking of my moonstone ring. The one with the large, looks like a, well, it is. It's like a, looks like a shell, a white shell, but it's a moonstone ring. That's the one you must be thinking about. And she's saying, "Love that movie." I know. I could see it again. I wish we could live or stream those kind of old movies. It's one of my favorite ones of Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, Harvey. Um, and down at the bottom of the card, do you see those little flowers there? Has to do with the hair. And looking at this, it kind of reminds me of the rabbits out west called jackrabbits because they're big. Yeah. There we go. Rabbit with the crescent moon in the background. Quarter moon. And bring his face up kind of close. I think he's cute. And there we go again. We have only one eye looking at us, looking directly at us. And some would even say because of the size of his ears, is that there's also an element of clear audience there, right? Clear hearing. Yeah. And rabbits are they're about fertility and abundance, right? Because rabbits have many babies during a year, during the breeding season, right? Lots of them. And so that they're termed to be a sign of abundance, and they're a prey animal, right? And so they're constantly searching their environment. They're very aware of their environment. Very seldom can you sneak up on a rabbit, on a wild rabbit or wild hare. And so they're very observant of their environment because they're a prey animal, right? Mm-hmm. Andrea saying, I think eggs would symbolize something new to come or something incubating. I agree with you. I do. And and I think that because I also know that the egg, and especially when they kind of look like this, because they kind of look like they're not just a white egg, right? They're kind of a I don't want to say painted, but they have texture to them. They have color, and if we didn't know that there were eggs and it looks like a nest there, right? They would almost look like some sort of stones or crystals. And then again, eggs are about fertility and abundance. And they're also about, you're right, about new beginnings, birthing, right? And also about creation. So let's see what Philip Cargome has to say about this. He says that the words associated with Hare is rebirth, intuition, and balance. Rebirth, intuition, and balance. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Oh, it stopped. I think Paul's outside taking snow off the roof. Because every once in a while I can hear kind of a scraping sound. I don't know if you guys can hear that. When it starts again, I'll ask you if you can hear it. All right. So the card shows the original hare of Britain. The Arctic hare, which was later replaced by the common brown hare, probably imported by the Romans from the plains of Central Europe. It's nearly dawn, but we can still see the moon in the sky. In the background stands a dolmen, symbol of rebirth. And in the foreground, we can see a lapwig's nest with the eggs, which were said to have been brought by the hare. The plants are harebell, hare parsley, and hare's foot clover growing close by. You know, it's one of the things that I've noticed with these cards is that the author and also the illustrator, they always include some sort of plant in there, right? And so from a druid point of view, they're including some things that could possibly be used for, healing. I'm not familiar with these plants, but that's a possibility. Yeah. And how many people in the chat have you seen a dolmen? Dolmens can be seen everywhere around the UK, especially Ireland and Scotland. Dolmens. They're very interesting. Now this one has pretty high columns. Of course, it could possibly be because of the angle, of course, but usually they're not this tall. I've only seen them when they're quite low to the ground. Dolmens. And having that larger flat rock over the top of it. Yeah. Hare. The author goes on to say that the hare brings us the benefits of balance and intuition, of promise and fulfillment. The hare is a creature of the goddess, the moon and the night, and yet it also represents the dawn, brightness, and the east. It is the most adept of animals at shape-shifting. We can never be sure exactly where the hare is, in this or the other world. It represents intuition, which makes things appear suddenly in our consciousness. Like the lapwig eggs of Oster that magically appear in the hare's form nest. As representative of the corn spirit, which I didn't know, the representative of the corn spirit and the two equinoxes, the hare brings the excitement of rebirth, fertile abundance, and willing release as each creative cycle comes to an end. With the hare as your ally, you'll be well able to negotiate times of change, and you'll be able to draw on your intuition to guide you through life. Now, did you know that the hare represented the time of the equinoxes? I didn't, but it makes some sense. Because the spring equinox, which is coming up soon, it's about that balance between night and day, right? The amount of light and the amount of darkness. It's in a balance. And I didn't know that the hare was actually a part of that represented that time of year. I learned something new today. I did. I did know about the eggs in Eostre, E-O-S-T-R-E, Estre, which is really interesting. And I didn't know that the hare was a representative of the corn spirit. I didn't know that either. So now we didn't receive this card in the reverse, but as we know that we get some really good information about the energy for today by also taking in the reverse information. And so it says that this card may be suggesting that there is an imbalance in your life. It is possible that you're allowing yourself to be overly concerned with the other world, regarding every unusual sign as a portent, or paying too much attention to channeled messages. To achieve balance, we need to concern ourselves with the outer realm just as much as the inner. Of challenge messages, someone once remarked, just because they're dead doesn't mean they're smart. End quote. Wisdom and guidance come from many sources, and you may need to apply common sense to a greater degree than you have in the past. So really what the author's talking about, I think, is discerning, right? That there's also an old saying that we used for years, and that sometimes, we're always seeing or talking about the signs, right? And the omens. Whenever we see a certain animal, we talk about what it could possibly mean, right? And sometimes, here's the saying, is that sometimes a cow is just a cow because you see them all the time. Well, a lot of us do anyway. And so sometimes what we need to do is use our own intuition and our own discernment, right? It doesn't mean that we just discard someone else's ability to see, right? To see, but to have it in balance. In balance, it's when sometimes it's hard for us to see what's really going on with a situation that we might be in, right? And we know that we're getting signs or symbols, but maybe we're having a hard time understanding what those are. And so going to see somebody for assistance, a seer or an oracle or a reader, or somebody who can actually help kind of clear the webs a bit, clear the path a bit, so that you can get a better understanding of it. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that when we won't make a move without someone else showing us or telling us what the spirits are saying, that might be out of balance. If we spend a lot more time doing that than doing our own discerning, so everything in balance. Yeah. Now, when I was reading through the information, there's a couple of things that kind of jumped out at me that I'd like to share with you. It says that in the old days, Hare was an animal sacred to the goddess. They brought luck, fertility, transformation, and healing. But as with other sacred animals, such as the cat and snake, Christianity degraded and inverted their symbolism. The close association between the cat and the hares is seen in both having their nicknames. In the medieval times, it was commonly believed that the witches could shapeshift or skin turn into hares. And I sat with that one for a little bit because I was thinking, why would they choose a hare? Of all the animals that you could possibly shapeshift into, why would you choose a hare, right? Since it's a prey animal. And Rochelle is saying, don't see many bunnies here, probably because of the foxes. Yeah, it's either, really, honestly, fox, cat, coyote, and I'm trying to think, neighborhood dogs, that sort of thing. But you're right. Sometimes we have a good many rabbits here, but I would say, closer to midsummer or so, you don't see quite as many. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year, 2018, in the spring, early summer. We'll say early summer. I was I was up at the academy, and I was going to be going into the academy, and I don't remember what I was there to do. But when I opened my car door, I looked in front of the gardens out front, and there I thought, what are those? Well, they were tiny baby bunnies, but the cat had gotten to them. It's like, oh, you poor things. And there was one that was still kind of alive. And I thought, well, maybe if I put him back into the nest, maybe the mom cat, would be able to come and maybe help him or, you know. So I put him back in the nest, and it was really, really hot. I remember that. And I remember picking up the baby bunny bodies without the heads. Oh, it was, God. And so, I was thinking, what is this all about? What is this? Why is this right here? Right. And I did see the neighbor's cat kind of dart around the corner. But the cat is just doing what cat does, right? That's something normal for them as they're hunting. And I was telling Paul, I said I probably would have felt a little bit better about it if it were a feral cat, because at least the feral cat is that they're actually going to eat because they're hungry, right? Whereas a domestic cat, somebody's house cat, this is by nature, by their instinct, but they're not necessarily doing this because they're hungry, maybe. I don't know. And so here, Janet's here. Hello, Janet. She says, yes, I got on before it ends. Yeah, we got a good 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes, maybe even closer to 30. And Andrea says, if you choose to be a hare, you'd be able to move around very quietly. Well, this is true, and actually, they can be quite fast too, right? If you watch a rabbit, as they're yes, they can hop rather slowly, but if they need to move, they're like gone. It's like they're a blur. They can be quite fast. And here's another one. This one is talking about the rebirth, resurrection, and the corn spirit. It says that as bearers of good fortune and as animals sacred to the goddess, hares or figurines of them have been found buried in ritual pits. As a grave companion, the hare is ideal, for it symbolizes the power of the goddess to bring forth rebirth and immortality. This power is often represented in the corn spirit, who embodies the magical ability of the life-sustaining crops to die in the fall only to be reborn in the spring. And I had to sit and think about that one. It's like, that one is so true, isn't it? The corn spirit. Yeah. He goes on to say that the pagan underpinnings of Christianity became abundantly obvious at the spring equinox. Here, the hare is the original Easter bunny, the word Easter being derived from the Saxon goddess Ostrea, to whom the hare was sacred. As goddess, the hare has brought new life, rebirth, and the equinox. The hare appears again at the other side of the year at the time of the autumn equinox, when the promises of spring is fulfilled in the autumn harvest. I thought that was fascinating. And, it made me think of something from with the Potawatomi culture, is that we have I don't know if you want to call him a trickster, similar to the coyote kind of energy as a trickster, but we have Nanabozo. And Nanabozo is a very large rabbit. And he teaches us lots about morals of the story kind of thing. And whenever he shows up, there's going to be mayhem. And so as I was reading this part about the Easter and about the goddess, I was thinking, oh, I wonder, Nanabozo was definitely a favored of the creator. Yeah. Yeah. And so whenever he had interaction with us two-leggeds, us humans, there was always something dramatic going on. Okay, so this is the second card that came. Bear. Now, we've had this guy several times in the last 2 weeks. And whenever a card shows up multiple times, you know that Spirit is really trying to get a message across to us, right? Really want us to take notice of this. And this has got to be like the second or third time that he's been here in a supporting role, supporting that first card. And so the qualities of Bear is primal power, sovereignty, and intuition married to instinct. Intuition married to instinct. So today, Bear, or Arsht in Gaelic, is here supporting the message that Hare is coming with, right? Because remember, the intention for the card draws is what energy is most important for us to know about today for our highest good and the highest good of all. And so to help us to understand how the most important energy for us to know about, how it is affecting and unfolding around us, right? So here comes Bear. Bear is supporting Hare. And in the card, the author says that Arsht connects you with the very deepest part of your ancestral roots. You are in touch with the primal mother, the bear goddess, and she will defend you fiercely from all danger. It's also known to be a warrior, that the guiding pole star of the great bear. Your intuition will never fail you. Because, they say that the North Star, right, is as a guidepost, that especially with people who are survivalists, or maybe their work is out on the big bodies of water, and there you need to something to navigate by, right? A starting point. And they say that the North Star and also the Southern Star are the most fixed stars in the sky. And so being able to locate the North Star, that you can get to be just about anywhere from there. So I believe that's why they say that your intuition will never fail you, is because the North Star is very consistent. Goes on to say, working with the bear gives you the opportunity to become a spiritual warrior. You can find the way to come into your power by marrying your strength and your intuition. Integrating your primal power with your intuition means uniting your star power and your animal power. And both are symbolized by Arsht, the bear. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the Hare card, got to mark my page, and I want to show you the two cards together. Okay. Let me go this way, so that we can get the feeling of both. I hope I have that in the camera here, so that you can see and sense, feel both cards together. Now, Hare is our primary card, the primary information coming, right? And the words associated with Hare is rebirth, intuition, and balance. Rebirth, intuition, and balance. And Bear is primal power, sovereignty, and intuition married to instinct, bringing together both your animal power and your star power. Right? Yeah, and don't forget the dolmen behind the rabbit. And that's about new beginnings. It's about rebirth. It's actually a burial site. And so when you believe that your soul is immortal and it's coming back maybe in another form, that's a new beginning, right? Yeah. Rochelle, what's Rochelle saying? She says, what is the object on the bottom left side? It looks like a salmon. We mean with the bear? Here, let me take that down. All right. Oh, I thought I took that down. All right. So if you're talking about the bear, what he's standing on, his paw, is a rattle. And in front of him, down near the corner, is a crown. Right. And it says that, all right. I'm going to show the bear card. Okay. Here, it says the card shows a bear standing by a cave entrance with a mace. I'm sorry, it wasn't a rattle. It's a mace at its feet. A mace was found by archaeologists near Stonehenge. It is the midwinter, the time of Alban Arthurian, and the light of Arthur at the winter solstice. A crown lies in the foreground, and we see the pole star shining brightly above the constellation of the plow, also known as the Great Bear or Arthur's Plow. And we know it as the Big Dipper. So Arsht, or bear, is also it has energy around the winter solstice. So here we have equinox and solstice, right? Equinox and solstice. Talk about balance. That we can draw on the energy of that time of the seasons. It's very interesting, really. When you follow more of the lunar calendar rather than a solar calendar, the changing of the seasons may not line up directly with like March 21st, September 21st or 22nd on the calendar, right? I think that those measurements of the solstices and the equinoxes are important, but they're important when you're talking about them from more of a, I want to say scientific, but that's not even quite the right word, I don't think, because there's calculations that are done by that movement of the sun and the earth. Okay. And it's needed. But the more innate, or the more spring, summer, fall, and winter don't necessarily fall right on those dates. And I'm sure that if you notice that in a March 21st, we might have a snowstorm, right? That spring doesn't exactly come nearer on that date. Spring might come early or it might come later, where you can actually see the new plants coming up, like the daffodils and the crocuses, and or the trees having buds on them, right? So when we tap into the wisdom of the equinox and the solstice, that it may not be exactly as the calendar, but really pay attention to nature. When Grandmother Earth says it's spring or winter, when the actual seasons change. It's more of a span of time than it is an actual date. Yeah. It's very interesting. So I think we're really keying in on our intuition and balance here. That with as we call on the medicine of the hare to come to us to help us with perhaps our intuition or our balance, or maybe we're starting a new project, or maybe we're starting a new chapter in our lives, right? That we can call on the medicine of the hare to be with us, to help us with that that movement that we're doing in our lives. And perhaps maybe we're just waking up to our spiritual journey here, right? And maybe it's the first time we're actually talking about our intuition out loud, sharing it with others, right? Finding a community that we can, or people that we can actually talk to about stuff like this. And they're not going to look at us like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? I'm sure you've heard that once or twice. But when we're first starting out on that journey, sometimes we do need an extra layer of protection, right? And so Bear can come in as a support about that protection. It's a primal power. And it's about taking our intuition and coupling it or blending it to our instinct. Because it's two different things. Our instinct is different from our intuition. So I think these two are coming to help us with maybe to deepen or to trust our own intuition more. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. All right. So Andrea is saying Bear and Hare could represent a lot of support for new projects or new beginnings. I agree, Andrea. I do. And Rochelle says we've had snow on Mother's Day. I know. I live in northern Wisconsin. For goodness sake, we still have a thin layer of ice on the ponds and lakes here until June, end of May. So, and Rochelle is saying, I was born under the sign of rabbit, according to the Chinese. Or the Chinese, yeah. And in the Chinese, that's calendar is a lunar calendar. It's not a solar calendar. Did you know that, Rochelle? Yeah. Yeah. And she said it's supposed to be the luckiest sign. Well, I don't know about that. My sign is a pig, and it's our year this year. It's the year of the pig. And some say, the luckiest is the tiger. Everybody wants to be born under the sign of the tiger. Hey, Paul. Nice to have you here, Paul Costanda. Good to have you here. Welcome to the show. And I think it's really, really interesting that we have the hare that represents the equinox and the bear that represents the solstice. Winter solstice, to be precise. So, with the winter solstice, it's that time of year that we're, of course, releasing anything that's no longer serving us, right, from the past year. And we're looking toward setting our intentions for the coming year, right, what we'd like to bring in. And then what we do is we go into a quiet time in deep winter, right? December, January. And we might be dreaming the dream about what we want to bring forth in the springtime, what we want to sprout in the springtime, right? And here we are coming around the bend. Actually, I think it's February 19th is kind of the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And so it's kind of another important kind of time frame is around February 19th. It's the halfway point. Yeah. And so then we start, feeling the anxiousness of spring. We want spring to come. We're tired of winter. We want to get outside and not have to, be bundled up, and watching for the new growth. And whatever we're starting new has that energy of the spring, that forward movement, right? That forward movement. Yeah. Stephanie is saying, yeah, in Colorado, we're not supposed to even think about starting seeds until Mother's Day. Yeah, that's true. In my family, on Good Friday or thereabouts, is to get up early in the morning before sunrise, and to be outside and to sense and feel the weather and what it feels like there, whether it's raining or whether is to sense it, because that will tell us more about what's coming for the spring and what to even expect for the summer weather. Our grandparents used to do that all the time. Yeah. And not planting until the very last frost is done, and sometimes that's not until beginning of May. So it's like, so sometimes you can't go by the actual calendar, the solar calendar. Is that when we go by the lunar calendar, I think that we're more in sync with what the Greeks called the Kairos time, the more natural time. Yeah. Rochelle says, according to the placemat I read at the Chinese restaurant. Well, that's good, because you never know. Some of that stuff has got some good information on it. All right. So that's my take on that, guys, is that my feeling about it is that even though we might be on our spiritual path for decades, right? And that we've been around the block a few times with it, right? That many of us are experiencing our intuition and our gifts that we came in with in a new energy field, a new vibration. Because Grandmother Earth is moving, right? She is vibrating. She's her evolution, that she's already in the fourth dimension energy field, and is experiencing the fifth already. And so for us to even be with her, that we too have to be on the move, have to be in that growth. And so I think that this is the feeling I've got. That's what the Hare is about, is helping us to find our balance in that new vibration, that new energy field. Even though we might have been around the block a few times on our spiritual journey, there's some newness to it. And if you're just now realizing your spiritual journey and you're trying to find your way and find your footing, Hare can help. And Bear has got our back. He's helping us to understand and to tap into that primal power where we marry up, we couple together our animal instinct and our star power, right? I think they called it animal power and star power. That's the feeling I have about this. Yes, it is about new beginnings. Yes, it is about that energy of the equinox, but I think it has a lot more to do with is keeping our balance, finding our balance in this new vibration. That the way that we used to do things, kind of like by rote, because this is the way we've always called in spirit. This is the way we've always worked with a power animal. This is, and it's all good. But in the new vibration, we may be looking at and doing things somewhat differently, because we're bringing in a lot more energy, a lot more information than we ever have. And so when we're prepared for it, when we have our healing work well on its way, that we're grounded, right? That we're grounded, and that we have the opportunity to be able to tap into our gifts and our intuition much more than we ever have. And so sometimes when we have that opportunity and we're actually doing it, and we're finding like, oh, wait a minute, that the way I used to do it isn't working anymore. That's not the outcome I expected. And so we too are trying to find our balance and our footing. Yeah. And so we know that we turn to our spiritual team. Many of us do. Okay, that was different. Tell me about that. What just happened? That's how I used to do it, and now I have to add this other thing in there because, right? That's what I think this is about. That's the feeling I've got. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but that's my take on it. Yeah. It's a lot of good energy here. It's helping us to prepare, helping us to maybe understand how it used to work or how it used to unfold, and you're experiencing it a little bit different. You're going, did I do something wrong? No, not necessarily. Maybe you just need to ask a different question or apply it just slightly in a different way, and we don't know that. And so we have help, right? We have help. Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about that. We're at the top of the hour. Something to consider, though, huh? Something to consider. I think it was Andrea's comment about could represent a lot of support for new projects or beginnings. Yeah. Where I got the feeling of it was when Bear comes in with bringing together the animal power, or that's the instinct, right? And the star power, and that's our intuition. And consciously bringing those two things together. And when we do that, that's a big medicine coming together. And when we're applying it in a new energy field, we might not know intellectually what the heck's going on. At our soul, we do. And so I think that this messages for today is they're bringing help. If we want help, we want to find our balance and better to understand our new way of being, that both Hare and Bear are here for us. We just have to ask them. Yeah. Yeah. Rochelle. Great non-show. May our Creator bless you abundantly. Well, thank you. That's so sweet, Rochelle. And Andrea saying, find new ways of doing things. Yes, yeah. Because I think that we find ourselves, especially when we've done our work, when we've done our healing work, and we're still doing it, right? Is that we have more access to our gifts and to our intuition in a time frame, in an energy frame, I should say, that's different. And so applying them is going to be different, I think. Yeah. You're welcome, Andrea. All right. So with that, hey, we've got some things coming up for you this coming week. Polly Joe's back, and she will be at Chakra Sessions on Tuesday at noon, and she is still going to cover the Egyptian Akashic records and our chakras. It's going to be interesting. At noon on Tuesday, that's Eastern time. And then Tuesday night is my weekly show, Communications from Home, and that's on at 8 p.m. And I've got a friend joining me. Now, her name is Karen Armstrong. Karen and I, we've been friends for a lot of years, and we're both drummers. We're both drum makers. And we both were trained by the same person with space clearing, and so it's going to be an interesting conversation. It's all about our drums and our ancestors. And I asked her specifically to please bring in information coming from her lineage, her ancestors, which are Irish Celtic, right? And she has studied with Tom Cowan. And so she's going to be bringing that information to us. That's on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern is Soul Connections with Polly Joe LeBay. And that's an evening about healing. And if you enjoy getting a mini card reading, she pulls cards for us and delivers a message. Okay. That's Wednesday night. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. I was searching my memory. It's like, what else is going on? But I do believe those are the shows for this coming week. Yeah, so enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'm so glad you guys were here with me today. I appreciate it. And I hope you find the information, the conversation, informative, enjoyable, and just to be able to spend some time together, right? Yeah. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay? So Ba Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. I love you guys.